Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting material to get into today, and the idea, as always, is to pull out the key stuff for you.
Exactly. Cut through the noise and get to the heart of it.
So today it's all about the artist Bob Camblin. We're working from two PDFs you sent over, 1987.pdf, and this other one, Bob Camblin Quotes and Other Mysteries.pdf.
That title alone, right, intriguing.
It really is. So our mission basically is twofold. First, figure out what Camblin was up to in 1987 specifically.
At a snapshot of that year.
Yeah. And second, dive into those quotes to explore, the bigger ideas floating around in his work and thoughts.
See the recurring themes, the philosophy behind the art.
Precisely. And the sources are great. We've got exhibition info, news clippings from the time, and then this collection of his own words.
A good mix. Gives us different angles.
Okay, so let's jump into 1987. Looking at that first document, wow, it seems like a really packed year for him.
Oh, definitely. Straight away, you see he's involved in a couple of exhibitions. Not just showing work, but actually designing an invitation to.
Ah, yes, for that Diverse Works fundraiser. Escape to the Wild Side, May 2nd.
That's the one. So right there, you see him involved in the Houston art scene, contributing in different ways.
And then there was his own show at Diverse Works Found. That ran May, June into July.
Yeah, and there's that Houston Chronicle piece about it by Patricia C. Johnson, June 28th.
What did that say again? Something about the number of objects?
Yeah, around 100 objects in the show.
Yeah.
And she described them as ranging from, let me see, whimsical to the frightening.
Whimsical to frightening. That's quite a range. What does that suggest to you?
Well, it immediately tells you his work wasn't just one note. It could be playful, but also unsettling or intense. Covers a lot of emotional ground.
And Johnson makes a comparison that really caught my eye. She likened his assemblages to Joseph Cornell's boxes.
Ah, Cornell. Yeah, that's a significant comparison. For listeners maybe less familiar, Cornell made these amazing little shadow boxes, these sort of miniature worlds filled with found objects. Very poetic, very evocative.
So what's the connection Johnson saw?
She highlighted the poetic illusions residing exclusively in the kinds of object chosen. The meaning comes from the objects themselves and how they're placed together.
Right. She gave that example of a clear glass sphere and how its meaning changes depending on the context Camblin puts it in.
Exactly. It's about transforming the ordinary, finding hidden narratives in everyday things through juxtaposition, like Cornell did.
It really makes you think about how artists see, doesn't it? Finding potential in discarded or simple items.
Definitely. Seeing that hidden poetry.
Okay, so that was the Found show. Then later in the year, December, he's in the Toy show.
Right. At the Nave Museum over in Victoria, Texas, another Chronicle article mentions that one, December 18th.
And the vibe of that show sounds completely different.
Totally. The article called it as much fun as it is beautiful. Camblin was one of like 43 artists in it. Sounds like he made a specific toy for the show.
So from potentially frightening assemblages to fun toys.
Yeah, that contrast again. It suggests, a really multifaceted artist, comfortable moving between different moods and modes. Not limited.
Makes sense. And professionally, there was another step too, wasn't there? The gallery representation.
Ah, yes. Graham Gallery in Houston started representing him. The document mentions an exhibition there sometime in '87, though we don't have the exact dates.
Still, getting gallery representation is a big step. More visibility, more support.
Absolutely. So professionally, 1987 looks like a year of, well, significant activity and growing recognition for him.
But it wasn't all just art shows and openings. The document mentions something deeply personal, too.
Yes. His trip to Detroit, he went to be with his daughter while she was having a bone marrow transplant.
Wow. That's heavy. That must have been an incredibly intense time.
You have to imagine so. Something like that, it inevitably shapes your perspective, maybe even finds its way into the work, consciously or not.
Absolutely. And then, almost on the other end of the spectrum, there was international travel, too.
Yeah. Earlier in the year reported January 11th in the Chronicle, he went to Paris.
Paris. With who?
With his collaborator, Nancy Echegoyen-Giordano, and fellow artists Lucas Johnson and Bert Long.
So you've got these major exhibitions, gallery representation, this intense personal family situation, and a trip to Paris with other artists, all in 1 year.
It paints a picture of a really complex, dynamic life, doesn't it? Highs and lows, professional strides, and deep personal concerns, all happening concurrently.
How do you think all that might connect? The travel, the personal stress, the art making?
Well, artists often draw from the totality of their experience, right? The trip to Paris, exposure to different art, different culture, that obviously feeds creativity. And the emotional weight of his daughter's illness. That kind of profound experience often deepens an artist's perspective on life, on what's important. It all becomes part of the wellspring.
Even if it's not like a direct one-to-one translation into a specific painting or sculpture?
Exactly. It informs the sensibility, the way you see and feel the world, which then shapes the art.
Okay, that gives us a really good feel for 1987. Let's shift gears now to that second document, the Quotes and Other Mysteries. Because this really opens up his way of thinking beyond just that 1 year.
Yeah, this is where we get more of the philosophy, the worldview. It's fascinating stuff.
Some of these quotes just jump out, like this one on time. Fortunately, some things remain forever, or another 10 years perhaps.
Huh. Yeah, there's a sort of wry realism there, isn't there? An acceptance of impermanence, even in things we think are solid.
It reminds me of that little note about the cottonwood trees, too.
Oh, the 3 cottonwood trees, now with them gone. Look.
Yeah, it's about change, loss, but also that command, look, pay attention to what's different, what's left.
A call to observation, which feels very central to him.
And he has these really interesting thoughts on perception, how we understand things. Like, look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both.
I love that. It's putting science and, well, magic, maybe intuition or spirituality on a similar level, saying you can find truth, find what you need in both realms.
And that art and philosophy bridge them somehow.
Right. They operate in that space between the purely rational and the purely intuitive. And then there's that line about the sixth sense.
Which one was that?
The sixth sense is to be, without a doubt, senza dubio, no doubt.
Yes, senza dubio, without a doubt. What do you make of that?
It suggests maybe that true insight isn't always about careful deduction. Sometimes it's just a knowing, an intuitive certainty that bypasses doubt.
Like a creative leap of faith, almost.
Yeah.
When you just know a composition works or a color is right, even if you can't explain why logically.
Exactly, that kind of feeling. And it ties into another quote I really like, the one about common sense.
Oh, the perfectly average view.
Yes, I will stick with common sense and try for the perfectly average view of the universe. But then he says this will let him enjoy miracles on both sides, science and magic.
Right, and the nuances, the smear between the whiteness and the blackness. He seems to really embrace the gray areas, the complexities.
Totally. He's not looking for simple answers or rigid categories. He wants to live in that space where opposites meet, hoping for that intensely bright gray.
That's such a great image, an intensely bright gray. It's about synthesis, not opposition.
Precisely. A more holistic way of seeing.
He also seems deeply connected to nature and very self-aware. There's that line, bright day and I soar, how cruel that my soul is attached to this earth, and yet.
Yeah. That captures that tension, doesn't it? The sort of spiritual longing versus the physical reality of being human, grounded.
And then the call for honesty. I cannot tell a lie to myself for very long. From 1974, that one.
Followed by that advice. Find something in nature that completes you and then surrender.
Surrender. That feels key. Not fighting it, but finding completion and then letting go. Maybe letting go of the ego.
I think so. Find that connection, that sense of belonging in the natural world, and then surrender the small self to that larger whole. It's about self-honesty and integration.
And his view on art itself.
Yeah.
It's not just decorative.
Not at all. Art is not just images, he says. And then that evolution. Art for art's sake has become art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake.
That feels really significant. Art moving from maybe a purely aesthetic concern to something vital, necessary for life, for him personally, even for survival.
It gives art this incredible weight and purpose, doesn't it? Not just a pastime, but something fundamental.
Yeah, and then there are these almost Zen-like instructions. Step off the train of thought.
To find the power that is no power. To do the work that is not work. To laugh the true laugh. Bending is not bowing.
It sounds like advice for getting unstuck, for accessing a different kind of awareness or creativity, moving beyond linear thinking.
Exactly. Like meditation or mindfulness practices aim for. Finding power in non-striving. Finding authenticity by letting go of convention.
He's also got such a great eye for these small, specific moments.
Oh, yeah, the little anecdotes.
Like the memory of songs just stopping. Or watching someone pay for coffee. Mundane things, but he captures them.
And that image of the cosmos waving back through the tree leaves. It's about finding wonder in the everyday, isn't it?
Definitely. Paying attention. And those haiku-like bits are gems.
They really are. So concise, so evocative, like the one on the tower.
On the tower we set, facing the clouds, Act 1, the White Mountains, Act 2, the cold wind, Act 3, the lightning, just boom, boom, boom. Paints a whole scene, a whole mood.
Or even simpler, the rain-soaked willows, brought me to my senses. Just that perfect little moment of clarity sparked by nature.
It shows a real mastery of observation and distilling experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And a sense of humor, too, like when he talks to Mother Nature.
Huh. Yeah, well, that's enough about me and Mother Nature. So let's talk about you. What did you think of my last picture?
It's funny, but also it shows this really intimate conversational relationship with the natural world. Like nature's a collaborator, someone whose opinion matters.
Agree your partner. I like that.
And then alongside these clear observations, you get these really enigmatic, almost surreal fragments.
Oh, yeah, like Eater of Christians, Chimera Byzantium Warm, Cold Children's Chair.
Or San Gimignano, Calamari to Oblivion, Strange Ways of Magic. What do you even do with those?
I know, they're like dream snippets or word association poems. They resist easy interpretation.
But they add this whole other layer, don't they? A sense of mystery, of the subconscious at play. It suggests his mind went to some really interesting, non-linear places.
It feels like he's constantly shifting perspectives, philosophical, observational, personal, surreal. He doesn't stay in one mode.
Which brings us to that idea he has about the ecology of art.
Right. Tell us about that one again.
Well, he basically argues that artists just doing their own thing, pursuing their own unique vision, is valuable in itself, like for the health of the whole art ecosystem.
So it's not just about who's successful or famous.
Exactly. He uses the analogy of a natural ecosystem. Every part, every species, contributes to the balance, even if it's not the dominant one. The act of creation itself, in its diversity, maintains the health of the whole.
That's actually a really beautiful way to think about the art world or any creative field. Less focus on competition, more on the collective contribution.
It reframes the artist's role, doesn't it? Away from just individual ambition towards being part of a larger necessary balance.
Yeah, I really like that. He also has that little reflection on teaching. Very concise.
Oh, yeah. Assumption, then capitulation, then finally teaching.
Huh. It speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That journey from thinking, to realizing you don't, to actually being able to guide someone else. It's humbling.
Anyone who's taught anything can probably relate to that little arc. It's spot on.
And he wraps up the quotes with that image of the ego.
The goldfish.
Yeah, yeah.
Your ego hidden and following you as gracefully as a goldfish's shit, folded under the waving tail. How neat that thought is. It's blunt, it's funny, but also kind of profound, right? That image of the ego always being there, trailing along, maybe awkwardly hidden, but undeniable. Very self-aware.
It's a memorable way to end, that's for sure. So, okay, wrapping this up. We looked at 1987, a really pivotal year for Camblin, clearly. Exhibitions, gallery deal, Paris, the intense personal stuff.
A real microcosm of a dynamic artistic life.
But then going into the quotes gives us such a broader sense of the man, his thinking, time, perception, art, nature, science, magic. He's wrestling with big ideas.
And constantly observing, constantly reflecting, from the grand scale of the cosmos down to, willows in the rain or the way his own ego operates.
It really shows how looking at both the specific activities and the artist's own words gives you such a richer picture than either one alone.
Absolutely. You get the context of his life in '87, and then you get the inner world through the quotes. Together, they offer a really compelling glimpse into his artistic vision and his way of being in the world.
So a final thought for our listeners, maybe drawing from Camblin. He talked about stepping off the train of thought. It makes me wonder, what's a habitual thought pattern or perspective that maybe you could try stepping away from, just momentarily, to see what else might appear?
That's a great challenge. Or thinking about his fascination with balance, with that intensely bright gray, where in our own lives or understanding, might we be looking for a new kind of integration, a balance between things we usually see as opposites.
Good questions to ponder. It really invites you to apply his way of thinking.
Definitely food for thought.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bob Camblin. Hopefully some of his experiences and those really unique reflections resonated with you.